Hello, Internet. This is Whispering Whim, bringing you another grocery haul today. And I think I'm going to just dive right in. I don't have any new news to talk about, so let's take a look at what we've got here. First up is some good old facial tissues, which is the actual term for what a Kleenex is, although I'm always tempted to say Kleenex, right? And that has a couple of different names, but I know it as a brand nomer, where the brand name of something takes over the meaning of what that thing is. Let's see here, what's another example? Another example would be Q-tips. That's a brand name for cotton swabs, but a lot of people still just call them Q-tips. And like Neosporin for first aid cream. So there's a lot of them when you start to really think about them. I won't bore you with me trying to ponder them all. So moving right along, we've got some chamomile tea, and this is just the generic store brand. We're gonna give it a go. My guy likes to have tea at night, and for a long time we were getting the Celestial Greetings Sleepy Time tea, which is a combination of chamomile, peppermint, and something else. I think it might be another of the mints. But at any rate, he started to get a little bit of heartburn. So we were playing around. We had leftover from our wedding, which was years and years ago now. Well, three-ish years ago. But fortunately, most of what was left over from the wedding was the non-caffeinated or decaffeinated teas, which those are different things. But through a process of basically elimination, that's the word, we discovered that it's probably the peppermint, because he started to get heartburn, right, from drinking tea at night, and it's probably the peppermint. So we've tried some other fruit teas, especially what was ever left over in our box O teas. We tried to be fancy. Let's see, is it on top? Yeah. Okay. So at my wedding, this was the tea box, and it used to have some really cool little dividers in it, but those got by the wayside after a while. But anyways, we were going through all sorts of different teas, and I think chamomile is the one he prefers. And, you know, it's caffeine free naturally because it's just flower petals. And, yeah, so we're going to give the store brand a go. Moral of the story there. Next up, I've got some Rice Krispie treats just to add some more flair or different treats into my guys' lunches. I try to make them not overly repetitive, right? Because that's easy when you're doing a box lunch 5 days a week. You know, throw some carrots in there, a granola bar, you're done. I try not to do that, so I switch out the fruits and the treats and sometimes even the cheese, although he really does seem to like the string cheese. But anyways, we're going to move right along here. We've got some flour tortillas. I'm going to be making some chile verde enchiladas, I think, this month, hopefully. As some of you know, I've been doing a lot of different dietary changes to make it more GERD friendly, and then the last doctor I talked to is like, you need so much more fiber, so now I'm adding more fiber. But, you know, one of the things is like no spice, and you're not supposed to do onions, which I love onions. But we've got a lot of it under control, I think. So I'm at that phase where I'm going to reintroduce stuff, which I'm so excited for. I miss tomatoes. Like, how funny of a thing is that to miss is tomatoes? But I do so much. So anyways, we're gonna find things that are kind of in the middle between what is completely banned from my diet and what isn't, and blah, blah, blah. It's boring. Okay. What's not boring is right here I have some shallots. Okay, this is like a two-pronged story, kind of. So, the first prong is that I have been watching a YouTuber who is a Korean lady who lives in Germany, and she talks about cultural differences. And then the last video I saw from her, she was doing some easy Korean recipes that you could, be able to do with even the available stuff at a typical Western supermarket, right? Like there's Asian markets all over. This town has at least 3 of them. I think maybe 4 now. So you can always find the specialty ingredients, but she was trying to make a video based on what you could find in like the supermarkets, the regular grocery stores, in her mind, a typical Western country, which I don't know if I would call Germany a typical Western country or not, but her recipes were duplicatable. And all of that just to say, I'm not duplicating her recipes, but she used shallots in all 3 of her dishes. And I was thinking about, I have some meat, some stew meat in the freezer, because I bought a pack of it. That might have been last grocery haul. I bought a pack of it, but we're a 2-person household, so making a giant stew sometimes is a bit too much. So I split the packet in half, and I have half of it left. And I was like, shallot and like a wine reductions, could be a really good way to use up that meat. And then I forgot to get the wine. So now it's going to be like a shallot and tomato reduction, I guess. Tomatoes are technically on the banned food list for GERD foods. But, I'm reintroducing things, so maybe that's what I'll make. I haven't fully committed to that plan, but it might happen. Next up, we've got some zesty dill spears, some good old pickles. We go through pickles so fast. I need to go back. It's been a long while since I've gone to Sam's Club, which if you don't have one near you, they're a big bulk warehouse store, like Costco, but I think Costco is a bit more familiar to people. And I have a membership, and I think it's coming up due soon. So I'm going to have to figure out whether or not I'm going to cancel it, but I haven't been in a long time. Just I've been taking care of my grandfather, and life's been kind of a little weird, and the health stuff, and blah. But if I go to Sam's Club, I can get like a giant, absolutely giant jar of pickles for like $3. So I should probably put that on my priority list to do again. Yeah. Next up, we got some Gatorade. I've been having electrolyte balance issues, and Gatorade is a good way to fix that, right? Get a little more sodium, a little more potassium. They make another one that, what do they call it? It's like Gatorade Electrolyte Plus or something silly like that, that has even more nutrients in it. And I've tried it, and it's okay, but it's like, it's thicker than water by a noticeable amount. So it's very viscous to me. And I'm like, this is not what I look for in a drink. It's more like a very sweet soup or something. But I think that one, I don't know, maybe I should retry it, because that one probably has more of the things I need. I mean, I've been taking a multivitamin and everything, but I don't know, my tum-tum is whack right now. Okay, moving right along. We've got lots and lots of garlic. I've been buying like a single bulb here and there for months now, and I always inevitably run out before the end of the month. And I was like, this stops here. I'm just gonna buy a big bag you know, it's cheaper in the long run to do it that way. So next up we have, let's see here, some salt. Getting a box O salt for some reason is like $3 cheaper than getting a plastic container of salt. That I don't understand, but I'll just live with it. Although I would prefer to have the plastic container, so maybe there is a reason behind that. But at any rate, this is kosher salt. That is my preferred cooking salt. It doesn't impart a metallic-y flavor that iodine-infused salt can. But I do try to sprinkle a little bit of regular table salt on some of my dishes because, you know, they say iodine's super important. I don't know. None of my lab work so far has said that I'm iodine deficient, so I guess I'm doing all right. Other than this headband, refuses to stay where I've put it, so I'm giving up on it. Headband is going away. And you can see my very faded out hair now. I'm going to re-dye it here soon, I think. I'm just deciding whether or not to use the open container of pink that I have, or if I'm going to switch to blue. I should probably use up the open container first, though. Okay, moving along. We have another box of tissues, and this is a little square box. This is the one that I will be putting by my spot on the couch. And then the big box goes to the position by my guy's computer desk. Both in the living room, but relevant to where we hang out the most. And I know he doesn't watch these videos, so, which, that's a whole nother story. We'll save that for another day. So I'm just going to tell you all, I get him the store brand and I get me the name brand, and I can tell the difference. I don't know if he can tell the difference or not, but he's never complained about it. So, yeah, I basically, because these little square boxes don't contain as much. This is 56 2-ply facial tissues, and this is 123 ply facial tissues. And they were roughly about the same cost. But I don't know, there's some things you just want the brand name for. I don't know what else to say. Well, I can say, moving right along, that seems to be a very common phrase. You know, a lot of this is just opening bags, so it's like I need segues to everything, I feel like. But moving along again. We've got some shampoo. I have bluing shampoo currently that takes away the brassiness, because I do have some red undertones naturally, but they were conflicting with the fancy hair dye job I got back in October. But you're not really supposed to use the bluing shampoo every day, and I wasn't. I had another shampoo. And then during Thanksgiving, my guy's like, can you pack extra shampoo? I might actually use the shower this time. Because Thanksgiving was like it used to be like a 3 or 4 day event. Apparently it's going to be different this year because we've been uninvited to come back to the facility that we used to use. But anyways, I got sick that weekend and ended up going home early and had to depend on him to pack all our bags and stuff back up. And somewhere in the shuffle, he lost my other shampoo. So I've only been using the bluing, the anti-brass shampoo. So I got a different one. This is the L'Oreal Paris Ever Pure Sulfate-Free Color Care System Volume Conditioner. And it's interesting. This is only 8.5 fluid ounces, or 250 milliliters. And the same brand makes other shampoos. They're not sulfate free. So I guess maybe that's the big difference. But the other shampoos they make are like 12.5 ounces or something like that in a bottle. And they're a little cheaper. So I don't know. I'm going to stick with the stuff that seems to be working, even though this isn't exactly... Whichever one I used before wasn't the volume one. It was a blue bottle, but that's me ranting. And we're gonna move along once again. So, our next item is some limes. This is mainly for when I make the enchiladas. So I'm going to still dial back the spice a lot in the overall dish. But there's lots of little ways that I can add spice just to my guy's dish, because he's a spice fiend. I think you know that by now. Making homemade pickled jalapenos, super easy, and he loves them. Loves. I mean, I guess I could buy a jar of pickled jalapenos, but he loves the homemade ones so much. I'm like, I might as well make it for him. And if you're wondering why I say pickled jalapenos are super easy, it's technically a quick pickle, which means you don't jar it and preserve it in the same way. It does last in the fridge for like 2 weeks, but it does not have the same shelf life as a proper pickle does. But all you do is you slice the jalapenos, you squeeze out the lemon juice of at least 1 lemon. I usually do 2, which is why I've got 2 little green balls right here. And then I usually zest the lime beforehand just for added citrus pop, but you don't have to. So jalapenos, lime juice, a pinch of salt, and like, I don't know, a teaspoon of sugar. I don't really measure it anymore. I just glug, glug, glug. And you mix it together. It's a little soupy. Pop it in the microwave for like 30 seconds, stir it, pop it in for another 30 seconds, and then just let it sit for a while. And you'll see the edges of the jalapenos turn a tiny bit brown. And that's actually a good sign. That's how you know the pickling is working, I guess. And they're bright and they're spicy, and my guy loves them, and he deserves all the spice in the world, even if I'm not allowed to eat it anymore. And then this is kind of a fun thud. It's a green bell pepper, and it is already, it's still firm, but I can see the signs of it being a bit older. So I'll have to use it this week. I can't let it sit for too long, but it's still good to use right now, and all of their green bell peppers kind of look like that, so we're just gonna deal with it. And then following that, I have a whole bunch of potatoes. I love potatoes. I put these on the list because I was thinking about making a shepherd's pie. And I might still do that, but I think I only picked up 1 can of tomatoes, which I would need another can. So I'm going to have to debate, but, you know, potatoes. They last as long as you keep them in the dark for quite a while, so I'm not too butthurt about whatever I might potentially use them for. Following that, we have... Oh, that's upsetting the balance of this bag. Let's grab something else. It doesn't upset the balance. Okay. Good old avocado oil. You know, it's funny. The store actually has a larger bottle of this, not this brand, but of avocado oil. And if you divide out the price per ounce, it's more expensive to buy the bigger bottle, which makes me sad. And then I'll sit there and be like, should I just buy 2 bottles and save myself the effort? Because I do cook with a lot of the avocado oil. And unequivocally, pretty much every time I'm like, I'll just get it on the next trip if I run out. Because I do in between trips, you know, the trip I'm showing you guys right now is my big trip of the month. But there's always supplementary trips, so I'm not too worried, but sometimes I'm like, I really should have just bought 2 bottles. Next, we have some beef broth. I've been using this a lot more with cooking. Just last night, instead of using rice as a side dish for what I was making, which was coconut chicken and some Pajon, which is really delicious if you've never had Pajon before. It's like a Korean savory pancake vegetable. Just think of it like going to the state fair and you have fried vegetables, right? But instead of like a single vegetable that's fried, it's just pieces of, smaller pieces of vegetables in a batter that then you fry. It's wonderful, especially if you use Thai chili sauce. Historically, I've always served this with just rice, right? It's natural. I like rice a lot. But I've been trying to make little tiny positive changes in what I've been eating. So last night I made quinoa instead of rice, and I put in beef broth and some scallions and just a tiny little pat of butter, and it came out actually really good. Like, part of me still wants the rice, but it was not bad at all. So gonna just keep on doing what I'm doing. And then next up we have some diced tomatoes. I mentioned earlier I only got 1 can. I should have gotten 2 cans. Not the birds. But technically tomatoes are on the banned list for what my doctors are telling me to eat. I'm reintroducing things, but I thought maybe after I'd written the grocery list and I looked at the fact that I had diced tomatoes on twice, I was like, well, I'm going to have to pick one because we're just slowly reintroducing these foods, right? So I'm not sure yet whether this is for my shepherd's pie. Technically, it's going to be a cottage pie because I'm not using lamb. Or if it's going to be for the shallot beef dish that I have in my head. It's probably going to go to that one because I bought the shallots and I don't know, it's in my head. Sometimes you just get a thought and you have to see it all the way through, right? Now we have some good old kidney beans. I'm actually going to try to just throw these on top of a salad. Beans are a really good source of fiber, and that's something that I need to add a lot of in my diet. I'm not super excited about it, but I was eating refried beans because that actually still has a lot of fiber despite being kind of processed. But you have to draw the line somewhere, right? And get more whole food type things in order to actually be healthy, right? But on a completely not healthy note, the next thing I have is some gummy bears. And I don't know if you have ever tried this particular brand before. Albanese. They are so good. It's a U.S. brand, which, I don't know, usually the U.S. doesn't do too much good food-wise, in my opinion. And that's terrible because I live here. But the crazy thing about these ones is that, so there's a lot of different flavors in there. There's cherry, strawberry, mango, pineapple, lemon, orange, green apple, watermelon, pink grapefruit, lime, blue raspberry, and grape. And why I have to mention that is that most of the time when I get gummy fruits, if it's like a mix of colors, basically, the individual candies all kind of taste like each other. Now, that could be that they've used the same flavor mix on all of the gummies. That happens in some brands. But it could also mean that they rely on certain flavorants that just kind of permeate into each other, and it becomes a fruit cocktail no matter what you do. These ones, actually, you can taste the different flavors. They're amazing. I really love them. I plan on giving at least, fingers crossed, half of the bag to my guy. And he's not quite, I mean, he loves them, but he's not quite the fan that I am. So, yeah. Okay, there's at least one in here. I got some other gummies to kind of mix and match because he loves the, the texture play and different flavors and swapping things in and out, right? So this other gummy, and there's some gummy worms somewhere, but it must be in another bag. But this gummy, they are spicy mango gummies. I've only ever seen them in the bin section of Winco, although I suspect if I went to a Latin American supermarket, I probably could find them there too. But yeah, they're kind of spicy. They're still sweet, but they have a very genuine mango flavor, so if I was still eating spicy stuff, I'd probably eat a couple myself. But I've learned spicy is not for me anymore. It makes me sad, but that's okay. And then finishing out this bag, and also talking about spicy, we've got some good old barbecue sauce, and this is for my guy's benefit. This is the Famous Dave's Devil Spit Sinfully Spicy Punched Up Peppery Heat barbecue sauce. It has lots of subtext. It's, for him, it's not really that spicy, but it does have a pretty good balance of flavor. And if I think he's, craving a bit more heat, I'll just throw some ghost peppers in there. It's so funny that that's a casual thing, but yep. Oh, not spicy enough today? Here's the second hottest pepper in the world. I think it's third hottest now, but it's still pretty hot. And then another thing for my guy. This is a packet of Bubbly, which is a brand of sparkling water. And this is for his infamous mini fridge. Please see previous videos if you do not know what I'm talking about. Okay. Now we're on to the one plastic bag that I had. And funny story about this. So, my guy and I only have one car right now. We're saving money in every possible way. And so I got my grocery bags before I took him to work, or technically he takes me to work and then I swap driver's sides with him because the less I drive, the happier I am. But anyway, so it's 7 in the morning and I'm like, okay, how many grocery bags do I think I need? And really, I had planned on this being a smaller trip than it ended up being. But, that just happens, and it just means that I can record the video in plenty of time to edit it before the end of the month, right? But as packing bags, and they can be, extra bags can be kind of annoying because they get in the way. They're probably not that annoying. I'm making a bigger deal out of it than necessary. But long story short, I put some bags back into the closet bags. And I was like, there's no way I need everything that I brought with me. And lo and behold, I needed one plastic bag. So, shame on me. I should have just taken the extras. Because we have so many reusable bags at this point. There's there's never a reason to have plastic, but you know, it happens. There's never a really just reason, but there are, you know, excuses. All right. Speaking of plastic, this is a very poofy bag of tortilla chips. I think it was an in-between trip. I don't think it was a grocery haul trip. I got my guy more of those individual nacho cheese dipper snack things. But I was also using the chips to dip in bean dip, because bean dip has a lot of fiber in it. And we went through the chips before he got through all of his nacho cheese. So that's why we have a fresh bag of tortilla chips. Now we have some green enchilada sauce. I decided I was not going to be making it from scratch this time around. Sometimes you just, you know, take an easy route once in a while. Not every time, but once in a while. Okay, and then apparently my bananas got stuck in the jalapenos. So first up is 2 whole bananas. I always feel silly buying only 2. Up until I get through my week and realize 2 is kind of the perfect amount for me. Because typically what I'll do is I'll only eat half of a banana in the morning and I'll save the other half for the next day. And you know, if you leave the peel on and you put it in a plastic bag, there's very little browning on the exposed edge. It's very edible the next day, which doesn't seem like it should be because bananas get so brown and yucky normally, but it works. It works for me. And so, you know, 2 bananas for roughly a week is a pretty good amount, especially because we'll get to the cooler bag in a bit. But I bought a lot of fruit this trip. I don't know why, but I was in a very fruity mood. But in the meantime, we've got some triple antibiotic ointment plus plain pain relief. I get some very, very severe cracks in my feet. And I have tried soaking, I've tried Epsom salt, I've tried scrubbing, I've tried acid treatments, and none of it really seems to work. The only thing that really helps them heal over is using the cream. And I feel bad about that because you're not supposed to use too much antibiotic stuff. You know, it contributes to potentially super bugs. But it's the only thing that helps. I don't know. Beyond soaking, salt, scrubs, and acid. And wearing socks overnight apparently is another thing you're supposed to do. Like, is there another thing? I haven't found more things other than like getting it professionally treated at like a podiatrist's office, which not in the budget right now. Just not. Okay, moving along. We've got some chula hot sauce. This is another one of those items where there is a larger one available. And every time I look at the price, the larger one costs more per ounce than the smaller one. Now this is going to last a lot longer than, what was the other item I was talking about this with? I have forgotten already. But this will last a long time, so I don't feel so bad for buying the small bottle. But it's interesting how we associate bulk with discounts. And I think some people just grab the bigger one assuming it's going to be cheaper. But unless you're really paying attention, it's not always cheaper. Okay. Except on the spicy train, we've got some jalapenos. I'm going to do some pickled jalapenos for my guy. And then there's more than what I need for pickling. So I don't remember exactly what my plan was for the other ones, but I'm sure there was a plan. It's funny. Sometimes when I make the grocery trips, I'm like, okay, I'm not actually in the mood for X meal, right? Let's say it was shepherd's pie. I was in the mood for that, but it's what came to mind. Sometimes I'll try to go through the list and cross out all the ingredients related to shepherd's pie if they're not used elsewhere. So I don't overbuy stuff. We have a lot, we have to budget a lot in this household. But there are times where I look at an item on the list and I'm like, why did I add that? I know there's a reason, because I pull out all my recipe cards and like I have a running list of like more householdy type things like salt, that are running low. And I go through and I'm very meticulous about, okay, I just need, I need jalapenos. And then when I see jalapenos again in a different recipe, I go times 2 or times 3. So I'm very meticulous. But then when I'm actually doing the grocery shopping, sometimes I look at my list and I'm like, I don't know what I did here. Okay. This is the rest of the gummies. And this will be the bulk of what I feed my guy so that I can eat all the delicious gummy bears. These are some Sour Patch Kids. He loves sour gummies the best. I mean, he likes a variety, but the variety should include sours. And, it's funny. There were gummy worms and Sour Patch Kids. And the Sour Patch Kids are like a whole $1.50 extra per pound than the gummy worms were. But as kind of, with the bulk bins, you have like the little tongs and you kind of can squeeze things. I was like, those gummy worms, they feel pretty stale. I wouldn't want to eat stale gummy worms, so we're just going to upgrade to the slightly more expensive sour gummy. And then finishing off that bag, some good old peanut butter. This is yet another item where it is cheaper to buy the medium size container than it is to buy either the small or the large one per ounce. Buying the smaller one would save you a few dollars, but if you have to buy it every 2 weeks, it's not saving you money, right? I know grocery shopping's kind of always been this way, but it feels like it's gotten even more fidgety than it was before. Okay. Next up, we've got some red bell pepper. And I was excited. This was on sale for just 88 cents a piece. And in the winter, it's winter for us in the northern hemisphere here. Usually where I can get them, these range to about, $1.20 to almost $2. So they must have just had extra because they're still pretty firm. They're not like past their expiry or anything. But I have been eating a lot more roasted bell peppers, and red is my favorite. It's a little sweeter. It's got a bit more of a deep flavor to me. Whereas green is kind of astringent, and then all of the other colors in between are different ranges of that. So I almost think I should have gotten like a third one or a fourth one. Because the last time I roasted some bell pepper, I roasted one red and one yellow. And I had eaten all of the roasted pieces within like 24 hours. It's supposed to last longer than that. Okay. Next up, we've got some sliced almonds. These are unsalted, toasted almonds. They're very plain, if you were to eat them by themselves, but I put them on top of my salads and it just adds a nice textural difference. I have been eating my salads without any dressing for like over a year now. That's how committed I am to trying to be healthy. I'm eating salads and not putting dressing on them. And I don't know, the almonds, the very plain almonds work really well in that scenario. They're not snacky things, but they work as a salad topper. Okay. Next up, we've got some good old Chex Mix. This is mostly for my guy. Give him some variety in his carbohydrate choices. Because I was going to get a big box with those little individual potato chips in it. I break down and do that at least once every other month, it seems like. But I was looking at it and I'm like, gosh, it's so much plastic, and this one flavor he doesn't like that much, and I'd have to eat it. And at the end of the day, I decided to just get him some good old Chex Mix. Now this is a quality impulse buy, if ever there was one. This is some pretzel bites. They're like little tiny pretzel balls. It comes with a nacho cheese cup of its own. And yeah, it's like a little dipper situation. And it says, you know, best heated, enjoy now or freeze for later. And I know I'm going to crank this out on a weekend lunch and just be like, we're going to eat a bunch of pretzels right now. That's actually a really large amount of pretzels for just 2 people. So we'll see how that goes. But definitely an impulse buy. Didn't need it, but I wanted it. And then finishing out our dry goods for today. Oof, that was a dramatic thud. Is some Cosmic Crisp apples. Now, apples are a mainstay of my guy's lunches. He eats them quite regularly and enjoys them. And his preferred apple is technically a Granny Smith. He likes when things are more tart. Hence the sour gummies, right? But I plan on trying to eat 1 or 2 of the apples myself. So I got one that I liked a little bit better. And, you know, truth be told, he is just grateful for a packed lunch and he's not going to complain that he got a Cosmic Crisp instead of a Granny Smith. So, apples it is. And now we're on to our cooler items, or the refrigerated items. And we only have, well, technically 1 bag, but I'll call it 1.5 bags. Because precariously, that's the word, sitting on top is a 5-pound bag of carrots. We go through so many carrots, and I really do prefer buying the baby carrots for the ease of it all. But we've just been going through so many, and it is cheaper to peel your own carrots by at least a few dollars. So I got the more labor-intensive carrots this time around. Probably switch back to baby carrots after I get through that bag, but honestly, a 5-pound bag is probably about what we would do in a month. Like, I have been, because the baby carrots come in like a 2-pound bag at Winco. Well, you can get it in a lot of sizes, but the biggest size is 2 pounds, or like 2.25, I think. Anyways, but we run out of that before the end of the month, and then I go buy more. And sometimes I go all the way back to Winco, and sometimes I cave and buy them at the closer grocery store, which is so expensive. Like, today's haul was under $200. We're not even done with it yet. Spending $200 at the grocery store that's really near me would have probably been like 3 bags of stuff max. It's crazy how expensive convenience can be. Anyways, got some string cheese, my guy's favorite cheese tech. And then we've got so many berries. I hope we can eat them all. We probably will. I've been eating a lot of berries lately. But the first berry in the berry pile is raspberries. And then we have strawberries. And then we have a whole bunch of blueberries. It was only like $3.50 for this giant, what is this? 150 gram size, 18 ounces. So that's like 1.5 pounds for us Northern Americans here. And that's a lot of blueberries for that price. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but apparently they're in season. Oh, it says right here, product of Chile. So apparently Chile's doing really well on the blueberry scale for my grocery store to give such a nice price for that many. And then we've got some green onions that we're trying to stick to another thing, but there they are. The scallions, green onions, spring onions, however you want to call them. And then we have a pork shank. I am going to be making some split pea soup. And normally I use ham hocks. Those were a little cheaper and easier to find once upon a time, but now they're like really expensive and hard to find. I don't understand, because this is like, you know, a very bony part of the leg, and so is the ham hock. But this is supposed to be like poor people food, and it just isn't anymore. This was $3.68 a pound, and the total package weight was $1.62. So I paid $5.96 for it. Now $6, not the end of the world, but for $3.68 a pound, I could get pure chicken breast, which is considered more desirable cut, at least by most people's standards. So I think it must be like, part of it is a lot of people learned how to cook a bit better during the pandemic, I think. And also the popularity of like Instapot and other quick cooking methods have made soup bones much more desirable than they used to be. And so now they're the same price as any other meat. I think eventually it won't matter which part of the cow or pig you get. It's all going to be the same price at some point. Okay. Rounding out this bag, we've got some chicken breast and some shredded cheese. Now we do have some freezer items today. Per the usual, there are not that many of them. Our freezer is pretty small, and I end up filling it with like extra leftovers and vegetable scraps because I'm going to make a broth later, and there's just not a lot of room for freezer food, which is a shame, because there are days where I wish I could just, I don't know, cook up some lean cuisine or something like that for dinner and be done with it. But I have standards, I guess. It's unfortunate. But anyways, we've got some garlic knots. This is bread to add on to my guy's portion he eats. I would say at least twice as many calories at dinner time as I do. I think I eat a few more calories in my lunch than he does, because I am the obligatory. I'm the one who has to eat the leftovers because he doesn't want to cook them in the office microwave. But when it comes dinner time, he eats a lot. That's the big meal of the day. So I supplement his meals sometimes with, freezer bread or other items. Here we have some ground beef, which will eventually be used for shepherd's pie. I just don't know if that's going to be in the near future or if it's going to be a little ways out. Some tater bites. Always have to laugh. Apparently tater tots is a trademarked phrase. So things that are not, I think it's the Ore-Ida brand controls tater tots. I could be wrong about that. But anyways, little potatoes that have been sliced up and seasoned. I've been kind of craving them. And, they're not the healthiest thing in the world, but technically they're allowed on my diet in moderation. So I'm going to eat some potato bites. And then finishing off, I told you it was a small bag, sorry. Finishing off our freezer bag are some pierogies. Now, I've never actually had pierogies before. I heard about them, of course. And then there was an episode or maybe a reel or a short bit. I don't remember anymore. But anyways, the guy who does Tasting History was reviewing pierogies, or a version of pierogies. I don't remember the whole details. But he's talking about them and mentioned that it's like basically potato and cheese. And I was like, how have I not included this into my diet yet? I like potatoes and cheese together. And then it's wrapped in pasta. So this is just a freezer version. It's not a homemade version, but I figure a lot of times I'll start with the freezer version just to kind of get familiar with the concept. And if I really, like it or think I can improve it, then I'll go find like a homemade recipe to work on. That's what I did with Pajon actually. For whatever reason, I only saw it there once. Only once. But Winco, which is where I do most of my grocery shopping, had a pre-made frozen vegetable patty pancake thing. I don't know if they actually called it Pajon. I think they just called it Korean pancakes. Like they were trying to super westernize it. And I was like, oh, I'm curious about this. And I brought it home and I made it. And I was like, oh, I see the potential here. And ever since then, I found a recipe. It's a pretty easy recipe. The only downside to making Pajon is you have to be committed to making like a whole lot at once. Because like, it's a mix of vegetables. So you put zucchini in there. Well, me personally, I'm putting a whole zucchini in there. I'm not putting half a zucchini in there. But, basically it takes an afternoon. I commit to making like 3 dozen all at once and then I freeze them. And then I have my own homemade freezer food. And they're great. But anyways, is that when a food idea intrigues me, I'll often start with the freezer food, not because I think it'll be the most accurate example, right? But anybody who's kind of trying to make a dish and put it up for sale as a freezer item probably understands the core of the dish, even if they can't accomplish all of that in a freezer item. And so you still get a feeling for what it is. So I'm going to get a feeling for what pierogies are via Mrs. T's mini pierogies. 4 cheese melody, aged cheddar, Parmesan, Romano, and Swiss. I almost whistled there. Swiss cheeses and creamy whipped potatoes wrapped in tender pasta, made in batches. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to it. Now we're at the end of the video, which means it's shout out time. Because without your guys' comments and thumbs up, I wouldn't do this. I hold that threat over your guys' head pretty much every month. Because there are days when I go grocery shopping and I'm like, oof, I'm not sure if I'm in the mood to film today. But you guys are so kind and so complimentive and, it sounds like a lot of you really genuinely fall asleep to the sound of my voice. So I keep going. But I definitely appreciate all of the feedback, right? So we're going to say thank you to Dulce Crystal. They love rosé. Ooh, I don't know if I can pronounce this one. McKelnavy J. Oh, that's a new commenter. I got a lot of new commenters. I love Jelly's Awe. Wicca Banks, which has been around for a long time. Allison Hamblin, Ciliotics. Briar 2024, Traby Maybe, Kendra Tyson. So I could just keep going on and on because there's enough of you to keep me going. But yeah, I read them all. I don't always answer right away. I try not to live on social media. I find it kind of draining. But I definitely read all the comments and eventually answer if applicable. So thank you guys for that effort. I appreciate you. And I hope you have a good night. Nighty night.